Hi, everybody. I just wanted to take a moment to try to explain to you what our first test and the expectations for our first essay are, so that you have 2 weekends to write your paper, study for a test, all that good stuff. That's usually what I try to do, is give 2 weekends so that you can kind of plan out your life and still have fun, hopefully. All right, so let's get right to it. I'm going to share my screen. It'll probably be pretty noisy. For example A, there's my 11-year-old and my cats and my husband, and we're just gonna go with it, right, Charlotte? Okay. Okay, here we go. So let's bring you to the test first. Okay, so here's what the test will look like. It'll be on Monday, the 28th, and taken through quizzes on Canvas. For test 1, you will be given 7 passages from the works we have covered so far. You will need to choose 5 of the passages to answer. This worked out really well. So for the most part, what I did last year is you'd have 7 passages, you'd only have to pick 5. As you can imagine, more passages will be devoted to the longer work, so you might want to expect to have more than one from Notes from Underground, for example. I can't force you not to look in your books, right? But this test will be timed, and once you begin, you can't stop the timer. So what I'll do is I'll give you like a 12-hour span to take the test, so you don't all have to take it, sorry about that, right at 10 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you could take it at 12 or 1 or 5 o'clock at night. That's fine with me. From 10 o'clock probably to about 10 o'clock at night, you can take this test. But once you start the timer, you cannot stop the timer. So it's not like you can start the test and then pause it and take an hour to try to figure out an answer. It is a timed test. So because of that, don't rely on looking up answers once you've been given the test. If you haven't read closely and you try to desperately sort of look up the answers during the test, you will not do well. I'm not really afraid for this class. You've all done such an amazing job so far with your journals and reading and everything else, but I just wanted to throw that out as a warning. Okay, so notice that these are the 3 texts that will be on the test: Albert Camus' The Guest, Jean-Paul Sartre, No Exit, and Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. Please also notice what's not on here. We do not have Jean-Paul Sartre's Existentialism is a Humanism. That doesn't mean that you can't bring that up, and please do when you're analyzing these texts. If you can show connections between Jean-Paul Sartre's Existentialism is a Humanism and say Notes from Underground or The Guest or even No Exit, I will be so incredibly happy. But it's not going to be on the identification part of the test. I'm not going to take a passage from it and ask you to identify and talk about what Sartre might have meant. Okay, so again, you'll have 5 out of 7. Each is worth 15 points. So once you see the passage, you have to tell me the title of the work it comes from and the author of the work. Now, of course, once again, you can have these written out someplace, but as I've warned my other students in my other classes, if you don't know off the top of your head and you start to look for that answer, it's going to make your life kind of difficult. And then number 3, who is speaking and to whom? If it's a direct quote, say like from No Exit, or to whom or what the passage is referring. That's very often sort of Notes from Underground, because we all know who's speaking. It's the Underground Man. And for example, just throwing this out, if you, for number 3, for anything from Notes from Underground, if you say, this is the Underground Man talking to his audience, wah, wah, I'd rather you go into a little bit more detail than that. Even if you say Underground Man to the gentleman, that would be better than just saying the author is speaking to his readers. Wah, wah. That's not, doesn't really tell me that you have understood on a deeper level the literature. Number 4, the significance of the passage. This is where the most points are coming from. So these, might take a little of memorization, might take a little of reading comprehension, but the significance is really where you're going to show me your analysis skills. And please remember, that's what's really important. Those higher level thinking skills when we're in a college class, right? It's not just that you read and understand, it's that you can read, understand, break it apart, and really make connections between it and other ideas in the world. So this is the significance, if I'm gonna paraphrase it, how does the passage touch upon a major theme of the work, and or why in the plot is this a pivotal moment? Doing both of those would probably be really, really successful. And then I kind of break this down a little bit more for you. The first step is to paraphrase. That is, translate in your own words what you think the passage is saying. And for some of you, this is really good. If you can take something from Notes from Underground, from Dostoevsky, and just tell me what you think the passage is saying in your own words. We have been doing this again and again in class, through homework, through our discussion boards, and you've all gotten very, very good at this. But then I want you to take another step. Like, paraphrasing is great. Next, even better step, then you should analyze more deeply. This can include making connections between the passage and other parts of the story, or between the work and other texts read for class, or between the passage and specific historical, cultural, philosophical themes addressed in the text. So, for example, if you were doing Camus' The Guest, you can make a connection between that particular passage and, say, other parts of the short story. You can make connections between The Guest and, say, existentialism is a humanism. You can even do that and more sort of larger philosophical themes and existentialism. That's fine too. If you wanted to, for example, for The Guest, you could also bring in cultural and historical. So you could talk about what was going on in Algiers at the time that the story was written, if that like really excites you, if you think that gives a sort of a deeper analysis. So I'm hoping that kind of clues you into all the different ways that you can kind of show me your analysis skills. Some students last year even found other quotes from the novels, the novella or short story to support their analysis, which is great, but be warned, you need to keep your eye on the timer so you don't run out of time. So if you're like, oh, this reminds me of this section of existentialism is a humanism, let me go try to find that 20 minutes later, that's not a great use of your time. So don't, I know it's really tempting to spend, an hour crafting each one of these answers, but we all know that sometimes that leads us down a very, very dark path, right? So just keep in mind, this, I will probably give you a little bit more than an hour. So that's about 10 to 15 minutes per answer, if that makes sense, everybody. And if that's the case, if you get an hour and 15 minutes to take this class, 15 minutes doesn't give you a whole bunch of time to like do a lot of investigating into these works. So you need to be pretty pithy with your time, with your answers, and really judicial with your time. Okay, so here's just an example. I'm gonna go through the example and then we can talk about it. So here's a quote: "But yet mathematical certainty is after all something insufferable. Twice 2 makes 4 seems to me simply a piece of insolence. Twice 2 makes 4 is a pert coxcomb who stands with his arms akimbo, barring your path and spitting. I admit that twice 2 makes 4 is an excellent thing, but if we're going to give it its due, twice 2 makes 5 is sometimes a very charming thing too." All right, hopefully you all notice that that is from Notes from Underground. Dostoevsky is the writer. Underground man referencing irrationality, right? So it's not just author speaking to readers, right? It's a little bit more specific than that. And then I'm going to give you 3 student responses. So one student wrote, "Notes from Underground is a philosophical rant about the importance of free will." Like, that was it. I'm not kidding. This was a student's test. And I went, aw. So here, this is just a summary of the entire work. It's not even a paraphrase of this particular passage, nor does it include analysis. So as you can imagine, this would not give you many points. Oh, hi, Kat. Hey, Charlotte. Charlotte, can you play with the cat or feed him or something? Okay. Here's another student. He is saying that mathematics is unbearable because it keeps you from complete freedom. He thinks a math problem, 2 times 2 equals 4, it's supposed to be 2 plus 2, but let's give him a break, is an objective rule of math that we must follow. So 2 times 2 equals 5 would in some ways be better. This is a decent paraphrase of the passage, but doesn't offer really any real analysis. So this is a step above just giving me a general summary, but it's not as deep as I'd like it to go. Let's take a look at another student. To a rational man, the man of the Enlightenment, 2 times 2 equals 4 is a logical, objective rule of math every person must abide by. There is no choice, no freedom, because it stands with its arms akimbo, barring your path. One thing I like is that this particular student is quoting from the passage. So not just even giving a paraphrase, but showing where he's getting his paraphrase. Math tells us that there is an objective truth we all must accept and follow. But to the underground man, math can never fully encompass or explain what it means to be human. Another passage, the underground man, argues that logic is only part of what it means to be human. Our emotions, our wills, our freedom to choose. What goes against our objective best interests is exactly what makes us fully and profanely human. The underground man in his personal life is certainly not rational and doesn't follow the normal and good interests that he's supposed to. For example, and I kind of left, I had to admit, I redacted the rest of this because I don't want to spoil the ending. But suffice to say, the student goes on to connect the underground man's philosophy to his life experiences. So there you go. This is a very solid answer. First, there's a very good paraphrase of the passage with direct quotes, and then the student connects this passage with other parts of Notes from Underground. You, if you wanted to, could also connect this passage with other texts we have read for class, if any of them applies. Okay, so I'm hoping that gives you a good idea of what's coming up. Next Friday, I'm actually, as part of our discussion board, I'm going to give you some example questions so that you can all kind of have fun, write your own analysis, and then I can jump on and let you know, this is good, this needs to go further, if that makes sense. So we're actually gonna have kind of like a little practice session next Friday during our discussion board. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the essay. So also on September 28th, I want you to turn in your essay to turnitin.com. That's going to be through Canvas. Hopefully by class time. And here's the reason why. If you need more time, please let me know. But I really feel like writing the essay very much helps you study for the test. So whatever piece of literature you write on for this essay, like The Guest or No Exit, or Notes from Underground, man, you're gonna know that piece of literature inside and out, and you won't even have to study for the test, you will already know it. So that's what I'm hoping for, that before you take the test, you finish your essay. If that makes sense, again, I can give you pretty much that whole time period to turn in that essay and that test. So if you turn in that essay and then take that test anywhere between 10 o'clock on Monday morning to 10 o'clock on Monday night, you'll be fine. I hope that gives you a little bit more of a breathing space. Okay, you should write, it's about 3-page essay, but I already know you guys, you write 3 pages for journals, for the love of God. So if it's longer, that's okay. Typed, double-spaced, at least 1,000 words, probably for most of you it's gonna be longer. Just one of the following questions, and here are the 4 choices. Contemplate the character Daru in Camus' The Guest in light of Sartre's existentialism as a humanism. In what ways does Daru seem to be a man of anguish? That is, a man who is aware of his own freedom and the freedom of others. Remember, that's kind of what anguish means. Anguish doesn't necessarily mean, that you feel really depressed. Anguish for Sartre means that you're very much aware of your freedom. You're very much aware that there is, quote unquote, no necessarily right choice to make, but by choosing it, you are making it the right choice. Does that make sense, everybody? And that's really just being aware of your freedom. It's kind of like when the underground man talks about being overly conscious. That's kind of the same way as anguish. We're aware of our freedom and the freedom of others. In what ways does Daru embody intersubjectivity? That is, seeing others as subjects with their own freedom, will, and complexities. In what ways does he act without hope? Now, again, everybody listen up. You don't necessarily have to answer each of these questions specifically, right? These are kind of the gist of what I'm going for. Your thesis might be a combination of some of these points. It might be kind of, he experienced anguish by doing X, Y, Z. Does that make sense, everyone? So don't feel like you have to answer each one of these individually, specifically somewhere in that essay. What I'm really looking for is kind of an awareness of the complexities of The Guest in light of existentialism as a humanism. But usually what I typically try to do, because I'm nice, is that I try to give at least 1 or 2 questions that could lead to their own part or their own paragraphs in an essay. So if you do go through these and answer this is anguish, intersubjectivity, act without hope, I am to some degree helping you set up an essay here, because each one of these could be its own quote unquote part, maybe once a paragraph each, maybe 2 paragraphs each, what have you. So I do also, though, in some ways, I'm trying to think about how to best help you organize some of your thoughts. Number 2, in his ending rant, the Underground Man calls himself the anti-hero. We haven't gotten there yet, but I try not to give too much away. This is what he says: a novel needs a hero, and all the traits for an anti-hero are expressly gathered together here. And what matters most, it all produces an unpleasant impression, for we are all divorced from life. We're all cripples, every one of us, more or less. If this doesn't make a lot of sense to you, don't worry, we're gonna get there. In what ways does the Underground Man's life or reality, or at least the story he's telling, mirror his philosophy expounds upon in part 1? In what ways is he an anti-hero, an overly conscious man, a man who seems to get some cursed enjoyment out of deliberately thwarting which should be his normal pursuits? So what I'm asking you to do here in this particular question is, again, kind of see the connection between part 1 and then part 2 of Notes from Underground. And again, if this doesn't make sense yet, just give it time and keep reading. Okay, number 3, the Sartrean idea of being for itself. This being distinguishes humans from other forms of life by the fact that it possesses a reflective consciousness, being for itself, what we call humans. Being for itself is not being in the sense of physical matter, but is expressed through its choices and acts, our will. It is this freedom and not some predetermined essence or human nature that defines the for itself and the person. As Inez says in No Exit, you are your life and nothing else. To put it simply, the being for itself is a self-awareness and a self-reflective consciousness that separates humans from animals. Being for others, so that's being for itself. Being for others, it is difficult for us to know ourselves objectively. For example, I can say, I'm thinking about Bob because he is a separate person. I can see him objectively. However, if I were to say, I'm thinking of myself, it would be almost impossible to see myself clearly, objectively, right? Like, it's kind of a weird thing to think, oh, I'm thinking about myself, as if it's some sort of object removed from me. It's hard to do. It's almost impossible for us to do this, right? Being of our being for itself, right? Because of our being for itself, we rely on others to, 1, see us, that is, define us as objects. This is uncomfortable at times, dehumanizing possibly, right? 2, however, we can only define ourselves, here we mean as objects, by comparing and contrasting ourselves with others. So it's like this again, we talked about like this double-edged sword. By having others see me, it reduces me, it objectifies me. At the same time, I need that in order to know, quote unquote, who I am, because again, I can't see myself objectively. Even the image in a mirror, that's not really me, right? First of all, because it's all switched around. I think most of you noticed that the first time I saw a photograph of myself as a child, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, my part is on the wrong side, right? Like, I don't look like myself. It's because I never, ever see myself truly, right? Not the way that I can see my husband, not the way I can see my children. If I'm looking in a mirror, it depends on the lighting. It depends on the reflection of the mirror. If I'm looking at myself in a photo, same thing. Can never truly see ourselves. So we rely on that with others, but that's also the rub, right? Thus, we're always paradoxically needing others so we know who we are and who we are not, right? Because that's what we do. When we look at others, we kind of compare ourselves to them. We are that, we are not this. However, but at the same time, we feel constrained, reduced, dehumanized by the objectification of others, the look they give us, seeing us as a means to their ends, objectifying us. So that was a really long, just going through some of the points that Sartre was trying to make. Show in an essay how Sartre's play, No Exit, plays with this idea of being for others. Its sometimes tragic results, and what Garson means when he exclaims at the end, hell is other people. Look especially at the title, No Exit. What does this title imply about our need for others and our being trapped by being for others? Why do the characters not leave even when the doors open at the end of the play? So again, remember, you don't necessarily have to like look at each of these things and answer them, because then the essay takes on this sort of stilted kind of flow. These are just some questions to think about as you're looking into No Exit and being for others. All right, number 4. If none of these really sound interesting to you and you want to take things in a different level, be my guest. You can come up with your own thesis. This essay must cover one of the works we have read and studied so far. So just to let you know, if you wanted to write on, I don't know, a really wonderful Jane Austen novel like Pride and Prejudice. That's one of my favorites. Great, but we didn't read it for this class, so you can't do that. Okay. Make sure it is arguing a point or a thesis and not merely giving information. And if you would do this in this class, but every once in a while I'll get a student who wants to just give biographical information about Camus, and I'm like, sorry, that's just information. Even with your own thesis, it still needs to show analysis of the text. And please remember, a more creative interpretation, music, visual art, is absolutely appreciated and acceptable. So if any of you want to do something more creative, please do. If you're thinking about creating your own thesis prompt or creating a project, please give me a heads up on your idea before you commit time or effort. This is just to make sure that we're both on the same page, and sometimes I can help students kind of narrow their focus or come up with a better thesis. When you turn in your creative project, you can drop it off in my office in McClure 26 or upload it to Canvas. So just make sure that it's something that you can upload to Canvas if you are either off campus or don't feel comfortable coming on campus. And, you know, we'd have a spike in COVID cases, so I completely understand if you don't feel comfortable. You must also write an artist's interpretation. The artist's interpretation will be about 1 page in length and include any quotes, passages, scenes from the story that inspired you. There's also a chance to tell me what you were trying to accomplish with your work of art. For example, if you used certain colors, why? If you made certain lighting choices when using photography, what effect were you going for? This will basically help me see what you want me to see in your pieces, because every once in a while, it's true, I'll get a piece of art from a student, I'll think, I don't know what this is trying to do. And then they write their artist's interpretation like, oh, that's really cool. So I hope that makes sense, everybody. This essay is more formal than journals, so be aware of common college level expectations. There should be an introduction, a well-stated thesis. Please everyone listen. I am a big believer that that thesis should be individual. So you don't have to put the thesis in the first paragraph. Maybe you ask a question in the first paragraph that eventually gets answered in the conclusion. Like, that's okay with me. So when I say a thesis, it just needs to be somewhere in that essay, if that makes sense. Body paragraphs that support the thesis, conclusion that does more, I hope, than merely summarizing the points. This is one reason why if you ask a question, what does SART mean by blah, 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 and then you answer it through the paper, and then in the conclusion, you, for the first time, explicitly state your thesis, that's one way of avoiding the kind of, here's my conclusion, let me just repeat everything I just told you, which is so high school and not very fun for the reader, let me just say. Remember to use specific examples from the text to support your answer. Remember that about 15 to 20% of this essay should be direct quotes from the, we didn't do a poem this time, this short story. Persistent grammar errors, unclear. Oh, just remember that the 15 to 20%, if you have a paper that has 90% of direct quotes, pretty much that means what you're good at is cutting and pasting, like not really analysis. At the same time, if you have no direct quotes, then basically you're saying, this is my opinion, just believe me. And remember, every time you make a claim, it needs to be backed up with evidence from the text. And again, we have been practicing this. I mean, this is all we've been doing, right? I give you a passage, you have to defend, you use other passages to defend your point. You've all done spectacularly well. Even those of you who said, I'm not really comfortable with analyzing literature, please, could you for one moment go back to the guest, see how you answered those questions, now see what you're doing with notes from underground, and you're going to think to yourself, we have made a lot of progress. You know, you've been doing a great job with this. If you, however, are still a little insecure about the number of grammar errors or your organization, that can result in a lower grade. So my suggestion would be go to see a writing center consultant, and here's all that information right here. So please do that. Give them at least 24 hours to give back your essay. I can also help though, if you feel comfortable talking to me, we can talk on the phone together. We can, you can send me your paper via email, but the same conditions apply. Please, please, please give it to me before, you know, don't give it to me at midnight the night before it's due, because that I will be asleep and drooling somewhere. Okay. Notice that the majority of points on this essay are for content. Content and development. So 70% of this essay will be what you're saying in your paper, the level, the depth of your analysis. on the support you give for your thesis development. The other 30% will be mechanics, conventions, grammar, citation if you have outside sources, unity and coherence, blah, 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 blah. So again, if you're not all that confident, there are places on campus for you to get some help. You can use outside sources, but honestly, everyone, please listen up. I'd rather it just be you and your beautiful brain and whatever text you're looking into. I really, you know, usually when students go and bring in outside sources, they start to rely on those outside sources instead of giving their own analysis and interpretation. And you all have beautiful, wonderful individual brains. And that's what I'm really interested in. I'm not interested in what other critics think about existentialism. I'm not interested in what they think about the guest. I'm interested in what you think. So please, I don't want you to find outside sources. But if you do, then please make sure that you text, that you have in-text citation and works cited page. However, so additive incentive here, if you are just using Notes from Underground or The Guest or No Exit, I know where to find that information. You don't need to have a works cited page. The only thing I'd like for you to do is to have in-text citation so that I can check the direct quote you give me for accuracy. Sometimes students will say, this character says this, and I'll notice that they, you know, attributed the quote to the wrong person. So I look it up really quick to make sure I'm not incorrect. So again, I would love it if you could, in the paper itself, give me either a page number or a section number. So for The Guest, for example, there are no page numbers associated with that piece I gave you, but there are sections. It has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's, you know, that's what I'd prefer. So here's an example. The Arab is treated like a thing, almost like an animal, by French authority figures, such as when Balducci led him, quote unquote, by a rope, and the Arab was walking behind him with hands bound and head lowered. This is Camus, section 5. And again, no need to give a works cited page. I already know where to find this short story. It's on my Canvas page. So for me, I know that this might go against some other literature professors, but I don't want you wasting time and energy trying to figure out how to cite a Canvas page in your works cited page. To me, I know where to find it. Don't worry about it. Okay. Mostly what I need is information so I can find this quote and check it for accuracy. I know some of you might not be comfortable writing about literature. This isn't your major. It's been a while. So please, 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 I'm here to help you. Okay. That's about it. So I'm hoping that that was helpful. So if you want to, you can start writing, you can start to think, you can start to study. It's going to be, I think, a really fun test, I hope. I mean, I hope you're like looking forward to like, ooh, I'm gonna be able to delve into like my interpretations, because that's really what I'm looking for, is your interpretation of these passages, and the strength of your analysis is going to be how well you can support your opinion. Okay, everybody stay safe, have a really, really, really great weekend. And I will be sending this information in an announcement, and good luck.